Hello, my name is Emily Hargrove, and I am NSSGA's Director of Occupational Safety and Health. I'm the host of the podcast Safety Shorts. Each episode will just be 3 to 5 minutes long, hopefully the perfect bite-sized portion so you always have time for an episode. Whether it's tuning in for a toolbox talk or just tuning in to see what's new and reflect on safety. From this series, you can expect to hear safety tips, learn about new ideas, and most of all, listen to safety stories from our industry guests and hear about their lessons learned. Hi, I'm Emily Hargrove, NSSGA's Director of Occupational Health and Safety. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Safety Shorts. In June, we recognize National Safety Month. Throughout the month, NSSGA will be sharing resources and content to focus safety front and center as a core value in the workplace. June 1st through 7th is National CPR and AED Awareness Week. So on today's episode, I'm joined by Brian Goepfert, former MSHA Administrator for Enforcement and volunteer firefighter, to share his CPR safety story. Hi, Brian. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you, Emily, for inviting me to participate on this important topic.
Of course. The microphone is all yours.
All right. Well, as we know, many people have heard of CPR and AED. The training is critical because it equips people with the skills to potentially save a life during a cardiac event or cardiac arrest. With immediate action, CPR and AED does increase a person's chance of survival, especially when professional help is delayed, such as like remote work sites, mines, pits that can be several hours away from a hospital. Here's why CPR and AED training is vital. When properly and promptly administered, CPR can double, even triple a victim's chance of survival during a cardiac arrest. Also, CPR helps keep the blood circulating when the heart is not working. It keeps that oxygen flowing throughout the brain and other vital organs until professional help arrives. Every minute without CPR AED intervention reduces the chances of survival by 7 to 10%. So every minute does count. AED is also just as critical as CPR, in that it helps restart or put the heart back into a normal, healthy rhythm so that it can effectively pump the blood so you no longer have to perform CPR. It's kind of like jump-starting the heart. The other critical part of this is bystander intervention. Training empowers bystanders to become immediate responders, reducing the time until professional help arrives. About 37% of cardiac arrests are witnessed by bystanders. Bystanders can be anyone, including you. What CPR training does for these bystanders, it builds confidence and the ability to stay calm and provide aid in a medical emergency. Confidence beats panicking in emergencies. These type of events, cardiac events, can happen anywhere. For example, 70% of cardiac arrests happen at the home, with many victims unfortunately not surviving before professional help arrives. Additionally, during a typical day, 20% of the population can be found in a school or some type of a learning campus, and heart attack is the leading cause of death on school campuses. Finally, there are about 10,000 heart attacks that occur in U.S. workplaces, including remote mining operations where professional rescue services are usually not readily available, making on-site CPR and AED training extremely important. Many years ago, when I was a former volunteer firefighter, we had a rescue call of a person suffering from a cardiac event. When we arrived on site, bystanders had already begun CPR. We attached an AED and were advised to give 2 shocks, which we did, stabilized the patient, transferred them to the hospital, where the emergency room doctor told us that early CPR and AED administration saved that patient's life. The patient did recover and went on to live a fulfilling life. So CPR is important, AED is important. They save lives. I've seen it firsthand. CPR training is widely available and relatively easy to learn, making it accessible to anyone. And fortunately, there's only a few things you need to remember in order to recognize a cardiac event and save a life. There are quick and inexpensive CPR classes throughout the United States. You can find them anywhere. So just to conclude, CPR and AED training are essential life-saving skills that anyone should learn. By being trained, individuals can make a real difference in an emergency and contribute to saving lives in their communities. Even if you've been CPR trained before, guidelines and directions can and do change based on new scientific and technological discoveries. So please keep up on the latest guidelines to ensure that you are delivering the best care. Learn CPR and be prepared to save a life. Thank you.
Thanks again, Brian. That's so true that empowering others to act confidently in emergencies can potentially save lives when in situations where every second counts. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us today. Please check out the NSSGA website for additional CPR and AED resources, as well as other topics that we're covering for this year's Safety Month. Till next time, I'm Emily Hargrove. Stay safe.